disruptive.
America that I fought for.
Weird thing to happen.
So get this, folks. The premier of New Brunswick announces ban for residents against hiking, camping, or fishing on crown land. So remember this? Remember all the Atlantic premiers, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, Labrador? They all had bans on their own citizens that they could not access the woods. They couldn't go hiking, camping, fishing in these wooded areas. They told us that it's because of climate change and because of the wildfires that were breaking out. But what they didn't tell you was there was an increase of arson. They didn't tell you exactly what they were doing to prevent the spread of these forest fires, which there was just absolute mismanagement. And also the fact that they were spraying glyphosate onto these forests, which is an arsenic chemical. It combusts. It causes more fires than it actually does preventing them. But they were spraying this chemical onto the forests that are already prone to wildfires while telling you you can't enter the woods unless you get fined $25,000. So we knew that it was a big scheme, that there was something larger afoot. We've done multiple stories on this. But here's to remind people, this is the New Brunswick Premier, Susan Holt. Here's her statement to the people of New Brunswick to get the hell out of the woods, without any details of when the ban was going to be lifted or why they had to have the ban in the first place. Watch.
The entire province is in an unprecedented situation, and it is getting worse. So we're here on a Saturday afternoon to ask all New Brunswickers to get out of the woods and to stay out of the woods.
Get out of the woods and stay out of the woods, while we continue to spray harmful chemicals that's damaging the nature of the woods. It's for your own protection. It's for your safety. While the wildfires continue to burn and firefighters are scrambling to put out the blaze because your government is so incompetent. But you have to get out of the woods. You. I had to give up my Saturday for this. I'm here on a Saturday to tell you to get the hell out of the woods. So, we have covered it extensively, how insane it is that to the tune of 25 grand, that anyone that stepped foot in the woods, we showed the video of Jeff Evely, a Nova Scotia resident who barely made it into the woods and was charged over $28,000. $28,000. Because on top of the original $25,000, he also had to pay taxes and victim fees for the forest, which absolutely makes no sense. There was no accountability. And then it got even more attention when we showed you that James O'Keefe also did an investigation on this. So people are well aware how these premiers responded, and they villainized their own citizens rather than batting down on what was starting these wildfires. They never really investigated why these fires were occurring, why they were happening. And what we also showed people was there was a bit of timing to this, because right before the wildfires took place, the province of Nova Scotia reversed a mining ban that was in place for 50 years on uranium and critical minerals. And if you look at the data, you look at the analysis, you look at where the wildfires are burning, it's particularly in areas where they've recently discovered there's big patches of these critical minerals that they're looking to mine. Coincidence? Well, either way, it's not good for their reputation. So Susan Holt has to do a bit of damage control, because after, villainizing your entire population by telling them, hey, you can't go outside in the woods and enjoy a summer in Canada, now she comes out with this. She is doing some damage control with this address. So she says, access to free breakfast is rolling out for all students in every public school across New Brunswick. This year, kids in 160 additional schools can now start their day with a healthy meal. We're helping students show up, get engaged, and succeed. Better mornings, better learning for all. So, I like, I'm not disagreeing that, hey, making sure our kids have a nutritious breakfast to start the day. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm not disagreeing that, and saying we got to let kids starve. But the reason I want to address this is because after the damages that she has done, or Tim Houston, Nova Scotia has done, or the Premier of Newfoundland Labrador has done in the recent events with the hiking bans that are still somewhat in effect, folks. They've lifted some areas, but they've still got the ban in place for certain other areas, and you kind of guess why. So they're doing damage control to the fact that their reputation got destroyed, penalizing people from enjoying the summer. So here now is Susan Holt trying to gain back some reputation by saying, hey, our government's now going to feed kids. You should be happy for that. You should be thankful. I'm going to feed your children. Forget the fact that I just told you to, get out and don't go into the woods. You'll be penalized to the tune of thousands of dollars. Don't be discouraged. We care about you guys. So here's a bit of the video.
At the heart of a quality education is a healthy start to every day. That's why we're offering a free breakfast to every student in every public school in New Brunswick.
When students start their day with a healthy meal, we know they're more ready to concentrate, to learn, and they feel more energized. And this is really important because it's one of the most simple and powerful ways that we can support students in their academic achievements. When their bellies are full, their scores get better in literacy, in numeracy, and it reduces chronic absenteeism.
And when we bring local food at the table, it's not only good for our students, it's also good for the farmers and the New Brunswick economy. And the students get a taste of New Brunswick.
Because when we nourish kids, we also nourish our communities and our future. Better mornings, better learning. Free breakfast for all coming to a public school near you.
There you go. Breakfast for all. We're saving the day, folks. Don't feel bad. Your kids can go out for a hike this summer because we're going to give them nutritious apples so they can better concentrate and not criticize our government policy, not be critical of authoritarian rule. Man. I mean, again, I just want to state, I'm not against having school breakfast programs. I'm not, don't think for a second that I want kids to starve. I obviously agree with this, but the reason I'm showing you this is the timing of the fact that they ruined their reputation just recently, and now they're coming out with these big, giant, bold statements of, oh, breakfast for all the youngsters. So you got to like us again because we're feeding the kids. You don't want the kids to starve. It's good to know where the fines are going towards now. Hey, you can't go outside and breathe fresh air and, touch grass and look at trees and go for hikes with your dog. But, $25,000 coming out of the pockets of citizens are definitely going towards, feeding the youngsters. Wow. That's just, talk about just weird timing of this. By the way, not to pick on this, but that's one eerie smile to be selling this point, to be selling this policy. Like she's got petroleum jelly in her teeth. Like when you're on these those pageant shows and they put the the jelly on and they smile like this. I want to feed the kids. I want to feed the kids. Like, look at this.
The education is a healthy start to every day.
Healthy
That's why
start
we're
to every
offering
day.
a free breakfast to every student in every public school in New Brunswick.
It's hard not to point that out, but I shouldn't. I'm not gonna point out someone's physical appearances, but that's just such an eerie smile to try to sell a breakfast program to people. We're going to feed the kids this delicious apple. And what makes this a bit controversial is the sentiment behind what Susan Holt is trying to address here after wrecking a bit of a reputation with the forest ban kind of reminds me of something. It kind of reminds me of just a short while ago. Here, you remember Chrystia Freeland, who was the deputy prime minister under Justin Trudeau, the one that froze your bank accounts. I can't answer those questions. Here she is, also saying the same thing about breakfast programs in schools. While the country is starving, while the country is facing a cost of living crisis, her excuse, her pat on the back, her pat on the shoulder is she went to a school with another premier and delivered out lunches to kids. So, to excuse herself from the horrible mismanagement of the country and the economy and all the direction downward that Canada's become under Justin Trudeau, now Mark Carney, she's going to give herself a pat on the back for feeding a bunch of kids at a school, at one school. Watch this.
Winnipeg on Friday. I was there with Premier Wab Kinew, and we gave those beautiful, wonderful children some bannock, a little carton of milk, some jam, some butter, and a banana. That was not bureaucracy that fed those kids. That was the deal we've done with Manitoba. The Conservatives are just feeding kids. Winnipeg.
So that's her excuse to cover up everything that's going wrong. We did our part. I went with Web Canoe. We went to Manitoba. We fed some kids. They got some bread and some jam and some butter and milk and an apple and a banana. Like, we did our part. What more do you want? As just basic essentials are expensive to get. You're buying your groceries. It costs an arm and a leg. But she wants to give herself a pat on the back because, oh, it's not bureaucracy because I went and fed some kids for a photo op. Just even the way the tone of her voice is just so condescending. It's just so, just malice. Even with that statement. Like, we fed some kids. We gave them some food. Just shut up. Shut up. Hear this again.
Winnipeg on Friday. I was there with Premier Wab Kinew, and we gave those beautiful, wonderful children some bannock, a little carton of milk, some jam, some butter, and a banana. That was not bureaucracy that fed those kids. That was the deal we've done with Manitoba. The Conservatives are just feeding kids.
I'm pretty sure that is like the same rhetoric that was used during A Christmas Carol with Ebenezer Scrooge. I don't know why these poor people are complaining. I gave them some bread. Why won't they shut up? Why do they keep harping on the economy and jobs and the failures of the Liberal Party? We went out and fed those beautiful kids. And she's directing that to the Conservative Party because I wish I had the full clip to show you before she made that stupid statement. Here, Polyev was analyzing the fact, and we got the data to show you. Here's CP24. Here, Polyev was pointing out this. And this should be the major story. This should be what Chrystia Freeland and Susan Holt and all the other premiers and all the other members of parliament should be addressing. This is the bigger problem here. That monthly food bank use soars to a record 2 million, driven by cost of groceries and housing. So, if you're promoting that you're feeding kids while the cost of groceries are going up, that's not fixing the bigger problem here. You're taking more money out of taxpayers or printing more money to buy expensive groceries because of you, and then feeding it to kids for your opportunity, for a photo op, to pat yourself on the back to say you did a good job. That's what Chrystia Freeland was doing there. She's giving herself a pat on the back to cover up the mismanagement of this. Monthly food bank usage is at 2 million people. And that number is increasing daily, folks. Food banks are scrambling to keep themselves afloat because the demand is rising extensively. And they're running out of short supply. But this is how they cover it up. We fed kids. We're feeding the kids, so shut up. Don't talk about mismanagement. Don't talk about taxes. Don't talk about how we're abusing farmers. Don't talk about supply control. Don't talk about any of those things that are causing the problem. Don't talk about carbon taxes. But congratulate someone like Chrystia Freeland for taking a photo opportunity to go to a random school with the premier to serve a bunch of kids a handful of goodies. like it's Halloween, trick or treat. Here's some bread, some jam, some butter, and a banana. Go F off. Like how horrendous that is. How horrendous that is. So I just find that so hilarious that Susan Holt, the premier of New Brunswick, after the deception, after the demise that she did to her own people on this forest ban, is now thinking, hey, I gotta, get myself out of this dump. I gotta get myself out of the hole I just dug. So I'm gonna promote, feeding kids now. Because who's gonna be against that? And again, I'm not against, feeding children that are in need. Obviously, they need to be nourished. I'm not gonna be, for starving children. But the timing of this is just so suspicious. The timing of this and the fact that they're leaving out the big picture, that a lot of the reason why kids are starving, and a lot of the reasons why kids end up homeless, there's a homeless epidemic in this country, and a lot of them are children, is because of stuff like this. Because the bigger picture is, the reality is, the cost of living, the cost of surviving in Canada is far out of reach for people. And Susan Holt, Chrystia Freeland, Mark Carney, Doug Ford, Tim Houston, whoever the case may be, have no interest in actually problem solving these dilemmas that would actually trickle down to actually help the better society. If we actually had more affordable groceries, then maybe families wouldn't have to starve their kids, sending them off to school. If we actually had those ways, if we actually had real policies for the people. But no, they're going to take the opportunity to congratulate themselves in helping to feed the kids. But not doing for the greater good, not doing any significant changes on policy that would make things drastically more better for this country.